Thank you, Mr Speaker. I'd like to just pick up a couple of the points made by our Green colleague there in relation to this bill, and it has been a bipartisan bill, and appropriately so. And of course, when we talk about Canterbury, I didn't, in my past address on this bill to the House, acknowledge that Canterbury extends north to the Kaikoura electorate and south to the Rangitata electorate, and there are people as far afield as those electorates that have been affected, as well as those of us who live in Christchurch or its periphery. I would like to just pick up on a point, particularly with Minister Kate Wilkinson in the House, and I know this is not the particular portfolio area for her, but it is a concern that's come through to me just this week through a parliamentary question, and it relates to the earthquake subsidy. And of course this bill is supporting those who've suffered through the quake, so they're not affected by the eligibility for working for families is not affected, and they don't have to pay tax on donations received from employers. But obviously the big element of the government's support to those in employment has been the earthquake support subsidy, which I acknowledge the government commenced quickly. I think it was an initiative driven both by the Canterbury Employers Chamber of Commerce and by the Canterbury Trade Unions, and it kicked in quickly and generously. And figures back from Minister Bennett to me this week say that in the first phase of that, which began on the 22nd of February through to the 4th of April, there were 46,607 employees, 8,020 employers who were represented and supported by that subsidy. There was an interim period, a 2-week extension from April 4th, which brought in a smaller number, but we've now got what it appears to be, unless there are announcements pending, the final phase of that. And at this point now, as of 9th of May, 660 employers, and at its peak 8,020, and 3,300 employees have been granted the second round of subsidy. And the point I'm wanting to make is that one of the conditions of that second or third phase, in effect, of subsidy is that you need to show that your business is viable before your employees can receive it, and you need to show that you're viable beyond 6 weeks. And I guess for me the concern is, as the MP representing Christchurch Central with all of the CBD, and of course I would expect that most of the, or at least many of the affected businesses, those most likely to benefit from the subsidy, would be businesses within the red zone. And of course for some of them it's not just a question of needing to be viable beyond 6 weeks. For some of them, they're not going to get access to their businesses for 6 months or more. And I just wanted to see if the Minister or a Minister might pick up on that and give us any assurance about whether there's anything further coming, and whether that's just a technicality that might be able to overcome in individual circumstances. I have, for instance, a bar owner in the CBD who's very keen to keep his key staff employed, wants a little bit of help to keep that going, but does not know when that bar will be able to reopen. And my view is that if the government can step up on an individual basis to assist a business like that, it will help keep people in jobs, and the cost will be met in another way through unemployment benefits. I wanted to just take members through a kind of audio tour, if you like, of the red zone of Christchurch, because a number of MPs from Christchurch on Monday went for the first visit for several weeks at least into the red zone. And we went down through Armagh Street, past buildings that some even non-Christchurch members will recognise, which have major question marks about their future, including high-rise buildings such as Forsyth Bar, about a 20-storey building, has a big question over its future. The PricewaterhouseCoopers building, I think, from the indications, probably will come through. We went through to the square where the Regent building, known to some of you if you visited Christchurch as the building which housed the aquarium, and also the Holy Grail bar at one point, might be known to some other members for that purpose. Major question mark around that building. I don't want to name members at this point, but they will know that bar, I'm sure. The BNZ on the corner of Hereford Street, has got major question marks upon it. Interestingly, two buildings that have had earthquake strengthening, heritage buildings, the Heritage Hotel, which used to be opposite my former electorate office, one of a number of electorate offices I've lost. I only lost 2 electorate offices, no, only 2. And the third one, I'm very pleased to say, is now on the corner of Fitzgerald Ave and Beeley Ave, and a very prominent site. But no, the Heritage Hotel, that used to be the government departmental building, earthquake strengthened, has come through with very little damage. And I think it's a signal in the rebuild of Christchurch that heritage buildings, where strengthened, should be there, should be able to play that part. And also the former Chief Post Office has come through very, very well. Clearly buildings without that amount of strengthening, as indeed our dear cathedral, have not come through so well. Further down, we went down to the Cashel Mall area, Ballantyne's building, come through pretty well. Ballantyne's is going to be at the heart of the Restart program, which is the initiative to get a part of our city reopened by show weekend, by the end of October into the first week of November. It's been driven by the Inner City Business Association, headed by Anthony Goff and Paul Lonsdale, doing a fantastic job on behalf of the inner city business groups and working with Sarah, the Canterbury Earthquake Recovery Authority, to get that going as an early symbol of the rebuild of Christchurch. But we actually went left rather than right on Cashel Mall and up past some of the shops towards the Grand Chancellor. Grand Chancellor, again, about a 20-storey building, which is definitely coming down, and the signals are, although the options were still being weighed, that they'll be taking the more traditional route to bring it down, and we may be looking at a 12-month period, 12 months to bring down that major building at the heart of our CBD. High Street, Litchfield Street, one of the cultural precincts of our city, extensive damage. A number of buildings already gone, and that was one of the sombre impacts for me of the tour, was there are cleared sites already where buildings have been felled, where the rubble has gone, and it is getting to the point where at times you have to look and think, what on earth was there? And the point about that is the schedule for buildings to come down already extends to 900 buildings in the CBD, and I think we can expect well in excess of 1,000 to come down further. And that, if you think of the size of our city centre, is a huge, huge tally, and underlines the importance of that budget earthquake recovery funding of $5.5 billion for the rebuild of our city. Just concluding my audio tour, other members may know the Holy Trinity Church, a base for the Pacifica community, particularly, already gone. It was identified as probably the most damaged building. It had already had earthquake damage and a fire prior to February 22. That has gone, totally gone, apart from foundations. Dorothy's will be an institution known to many members of this House, now known as Beaufort House, has sustained moderate damage. Question mark about whether that will be rebuilt. We want to keep Dorothy's, absolutely, with my colleague, the member for Port Hills, on that, but it has sustained considerable damage. And around the corner of Latimer Square through to Harcourt Grenadiers, a modern building, has been earmarked for demolition. The CTU, the Combined Trade Unions building, has also got major question marks on it. It's slumped about half a metre in one corner, and we came back down through Gloucester Street, and the TVNZ building has already been completely felled and demolished. So that sort of completes the picture as part of the CBD. What that leads me to is that in the budget we have bonds, Kiwi earthquake bonds, being put up in place. I acknowledge and applaud that. I think that will be an important contribution to the rebuild of our city. But just an email tonight from one of the members of Iconic, which is a group that I chair, Nikki Wagner, another member of that group, one of the members noting there's nothing in the bonding structure to assist the private sector with its rebuild program. I think there's an assumption that the private sector insurance will be sufficient. The word is that is not likely. So maybe that needs to be given some further consideration as we move towards the rebuild of Christchurch.
Rahui Katini.